What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back. To to my channel. My name is Blaine Riley, and I love you, and Christ loves you. But today we're going to be hitting legs. Now, what do my leg days typically look at like? Go back and watch my previous leg day where I trained with that 15-year-old. His legs are the biggest legs I've ever seen on a 15-year-old. A kid in 8th grade, and his legs are bigger than mine, and I'm 23, and I've been, working out and played Division I football, which is insane. So go check out that video. But my leg days typically consist of squats, leg extensions, leg curls, and sissy squats. That's typically it. Sometimes a hinge of some kind, like a RDL. But I go through phases, right? One week I'll be really heavy squat oriented, and then the other week I'll kind of dial it back and go more just like quad extensions, leg curls, sissy squats, and maybe a couple other small things. But the reason for that is because I do try to push myself as hard as I can on my leg days, and I do try to, leave nothing left in the gym. So, and that goes for all my workouts. I try to just go to absolute failure, and that might not work for you, but that's how I train. That's how, I see a lot of guys with great success train. So that's kind of what I've done. But when I'm training legs like this or working out like this and I'm squatting or doing any heavy compound movement for anything, even like chest or deadlifts, when I'm squatting like this, I kind of need a week off from doing it. And that helps me, one, take a break, but then be ready the second week to come back and do it again. So with me squatting last week and going super insane, I think we did like 6 or 7 sets of squat. Now, some of them weren't heavy, but they were really, really intense movements, really intense sets. Because of that, it took me probably 5 or 6 days to really feel fully recovered. So I trained legs on Tuesday and I didn't feel really recovered until like Saturday or Sunday. So I'm only doing leg day once a week right now. So that just shows you that this leg day is for sure enough because I'm being sore until, the weekend, which is pretty long for your legs to be sore. So that means because we did squats last week, we're going to go ahead and just do leg extensions today, leg curls, sissy squats, probably thrown in there, supersetted somehow. And then I'm thinking I need to do some sort of like glute biased sort of movement because even on those days where I do, the squats and go really insane, I typically tend to be some sort of like quad dominant squat, whether it's like heel elevated squat or last week we did front squats. So I need to work on my booty because when I tore my ACL a couple years ago, I was able to get my quads back. I was able to get my hamstrings back. Calves were always fine, but my butt is gone, absolutely gone. And I used to have a decent butt, not being weird, but I had a normal butt. Like I played football, like a normal, athletic guy butt. Not anymore. So I'm going to throw in some kind of probably posterior bias sort of squat, maybe some kind of like just light, low bar squat in the squat rack or in the Smith machine, or maybe I can get set up on some kind of leg press of some kind or hack squat, whatever. But I need to work on the booty. So today's kind of while it's still intense, right? It's still going to be a tough workout. We're just avoiding the really gnarly, super, super crazy heel elevated or quad dominant sort of squatting today. So it's still going to be a tough workout. We're just kind of doing less of the compound movements and more of those isolation movements, but still going hard within those. I think when you go super, super insane on those compound movements, the deadlifts, the squats, the bench, you really have to plan out your recovery. Otherwise, you can't really do those every single workout. You're just going to run yourself into the ground unless you're, doing it carefully. But for me, I'm not doing it really carefully. When I hit squats, especially my like heel elevated squats or front squats, I'm going absolutely insane. And I honestly don't feel like doing that again this week. So I'm going to do it next week, and I'm going to kind of just hit, get a crazy leg pump today. I'm still going to see awesome gains, but, I'm kind of just letting myself recover so that next week I can come back around and go absolutely insane. So as you see, we got all the bikes. Got the Harley 883 Sportster. We got to start wrenching on that for sure because it's closing in, right? The spring's closing in, even though it's still wintry and gross out. I got to get started on that. But we got my brother's V-Star 650. Got my old V-Star 650, which I'm still trying to sell. But we're going to start, hopefully I can get this one out of here and get this one all chopped up because we're going to do the hardtail frame on it. Going to do the new fender and sissy bar and oil pan, all that stuff. So I'm going to start doing that. But today I want to talk to you guys about the importance of building a relationship with God. In the Christian community, we often tend to focus on like the beliefs that we all have and upholding the things that are in the Bible, the law, but we kind of neglect the core principle, and that's building a relationship with God. And what this does when you build a relationship with God, or what I've started to find, is that the sense of loneliness that you may experience in life kind of goes away. Because let's be honest, even though you may have like a supportive family, like I have an amazing family, I have an amazing fiance, I have so much support and encouragement in my life, but there's times when you just feel lonely, right? You just feel like there's no one around. And that's completely fine for you to feel, man. Like that's so normal. But I want you to know that in these times, this is when having a relationship with God is so important, because you really realize how much love you actually do have, and you realize how much people there are around you that support you and love you. So when you work on building that relationship with God, you start to realize, I have more in common with everyone else around me than I thought, right? If I'm a follower of Christ, if I'm a son of God, and you're a son of God, then that makes us brothers and sisters. And this outlook, right, when you start viewing everyone around you as brothers and sisters, and you're all in this thing together, you start to be able to uphold those beliefs and those laws that are in the Bible, right? Because now that you believe, or now that you see everyone as brothers and sisters, you have a different sense of love and connection to those people. No longer can you, now you still can, but it's more tough to judge others. It's more tough to, point fingers at people. It's tough to lust, because you feel a different sense of love, because you know that you're all connected through Christ our Father. Build that connection with God. That's my biggest piece of advice for you today, is to try focusing on, obviously you want to do those other things, right? You want to follow Scripture to the best of your ability, and you want to uphold those beliefs to the best of the ability. But at the end of the day, I've heard the saying, like, don't follow religion, follow Christ. Like that's the point. You want God, you want that relationship in your life, because that fuels everything else. That leads to success in other areas in regards to your faith. And I think it's the best way to set yourself up for success. I always talk about that with, life in general, is like set yourself up for success. And I think the best way you can set yourself up for success in regards to your faith journey is to focus on that relationship with God first and foremost. And honestly, that's kind of like my testimony. That's how I came into following Christ. Was, I was at a tough point in my life, and I realized I got nothing else. So I fully surrendered my life over to God. I'd never really gone to church consistently. I'd never really, been into Scripture at all, at least not how much I should have been. And I was like, I'm done. God, I'm giving my life over to you. And when I started doing that and saying that and praying, I started building that connection. Even though I wasn't really educated at all on Scripture or the beliefs or anything like that, I just knew that I wanted to be with God because I needed His help. And that's what He offers you. And building that first, some of you guys the journey might be opposite. Maybe you started with Scripture, now you're learning how to find God or have that relationship with God. But I think the most important thing is having that relationship and building it, and everything else will sort of fall into line. All right, so to fuel this workout, I actually had some rice earlier. Now, leg days are really only the workout, or really the only workout that I'm too stressed about, like making sure that I'm super fueled, because like I was saying, my leg days are super tough, and I want to make sure, one, that I'm recovered enough, and two, that I have the fuel to like be able to put all my effort into it. So one, I got to make sure I have some good carbs in me. Two, I want to make sure that I'm hydrated. So I tend to have an electrolyte before. So I had some rice before this. I was going to eat it with some beef, but we didn't have any beef thawed out. So I actually just mixed it with some egg, 3 eggs, and like 2 or 3 servings of cottage cheese. Mixed all that up. And it might sound gross to you, but it was actually pretty good with some salsa and different seasonings. So we actually also put honey on it as well for some of those simple sugars. But feeling really good. It's funny, when you do a gnarly cut like I did this last summer, or maybe you've done a show prep before, you know what it feels like to feel super depleted depressed and like just you feel out of body. But when you're carved up and you're bulked up, you feel you recognize how good you actually feel. So I feel good. I can almost just feel like that my body's ready for a tough workout. So feeling fueled up. So carbs, whether that's a complex carb a couple hours before, and then simple carbs before, and then making sure you're getting some good electrolytes in you as well. All right, first set of leg extensions, and yes, we are hitting legs and pants. I really don't mind it. I could bend my legs just fine. Now, if I were to do like some crazy deep squat of some kind, I probably wouldn't want to be in these just because I don't want to rip them, but these actually already have a hole in them. A lot of my pants already do have holes in them, so I'm not too worried about ripping them out. So do more workouts in pants, whatever. Anyway, so 4 sets of these, and then we'll do another 4 sets after this, but we're gonna superset those last 4 sets with sissy squats. And then we'll move on to leg curls and like some sort of like glute bias squat of some kind. But yeah, 8 sets on these, superset on those last 4, probably 8 sets of curls, nothing crazy, just failure. I would be skeptic of doing just these isolation movements, but when I was injured with my knee and kind of trying to recover, I was allowed to do leg extensions and leg curls, but I wasn't allowed to really squat with a lot of load. So I really just stuck to these movements during my leg recovery, and I saw some of the craziest leg gains I've ever seen just from doing things like these sissy squats and curls. So I'm not afraid to take a break from squats or take a break from some heavy pressing and just focus on these iso movements. Now on these, I'm not going too heavy to where I have to like throw it up. It's more light enough to where I can really get a gnarly squeeze at the top, but still heavy. And I play around with where my feet are at. Sometimes they're wide, sometimes they're tight. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling. Oh my. Oh. Ow. Oh gosh. Ooh. Oh. Ooh, gosh darn. Now in these sissy squats, I kind of like to do kind of duck feet and let those knees go really far over toes. And what that's going to do is you're going to feel that stretch really crazy in the lateralis, not on the outside. And you can switch up your stance wherever you feel comfortable, but I tend to like having those toes a little bit out. and just lightly holding on to this thing up here. Driving through those knees, really stretching that quad. All right, so in order to capitalize off these crazy quad pumps that we got going on here, we'll go ahead and pose our quads now. Show you the undies. Boom. Quick, easy quad pump. That's how it's done. Move on to basically posterior chain now. Okay, so leg curls now. On that last set, I actually, sometimes I'll point my toe. On leg curls, sometimes I'll flex it inward. I tried pointing it, and I got the gnarliest calf cramp. But so we'll kind of avoid those. But sometimes it's nice to kind of point the toes versus like really curling them up. Same with extensions. I'll switch it up. Sometimes I'll really curl them up. Sometimes I'll point them out. Same with these. It just kind of, at least for me, feels like it's targeting at different points of that movement. Targeting different, I don't know if it's targeting different areas, but the tension feels different. It's almost like, the wrist positioning on like side raisers or something like that, or like even bicep curls. Your wrist, even though it's so small, right, so minute, you have this huge arm and then just this little wrist. If you change up how you're holding something, it's gonna alter how that weight feels. So if you point your toes or you curl your toes, it's gonna alter how that weight feels. So I like to kind of move that around and kind of add variation in. What I'm noticing is when I point my toes on either of these, I feel it more towards my knee. So like if I'm pointing my toes on the extensions, I feel it more towards the top of that, or the bottom of the quad, towards the knee. And then if I point my toes on leg extensions, I feel it more behind my knee in the hamstring. Whereas like if I curl my toes up on either of these movements, I feel it more up top, on top of the quad, near my hips. And if I curl my toes on these, I feel it more up under my butt. So that might not be scientific at all, just kind of what I feel, something to kind of mess around with. Okay, so to kind of target our booties, we're gonna do this. What is it, a hack squat, pendulum squat? You know what it's called? If you do, drop a comment down below, tell me what it's called. But this is cool because you can face this way, you can face this way. You can be quad dominant, heel, like posterior dominant. Today, we're going to be really wide and sitting back, really sitting down and back into the glutes and the hamstrings. Now you could even go lightweight on these, put those feet close together and do somewhat of like a sissy squat as well. notice on these, anything that's like a gnarly compound movement, is you could still go to failure, but it's a different failure. You know, it's more of a lactic acid and like out of breath failure, whereas when you do something that's more isolated, which these are very compound, when you do something more isolated, you kind of go to failure because it burns so bad in that specific area that you're trying to target. When you're doing something like a low bar squat or a deadlift, you kind of get out of breath and fatigued from just the overall movement. Not saying you're not getting gains in that area you're trying to target, it's just failure can look a little bit different. And honestly, it's a little bit harder to achieve. So on these, like, I'm really trying to just focus on, you know, feeling in my glutes, but I'm also starting to get fatigued and starting to get out of breath. So I guess I'm not going as insane, because I could do this for, you know, 30 reps, 30, 40 reps if I really, really wanted to go. If I'm being honest, I'm just not really trying to do all that for my booty. Just trying to, you know, get a couple sets in here to slowly start working on that area. It's almost like, because there's so many muscle groups involved, even though like my butt might fail at like 20 reps, you know, I got quads firing, I got hips firing, I got my lower back firing. So it's almost like there's more muscle groups that can eventually take over, and then failure's so much harder to achieve. Whereas like if it was just the glute, you know, it might only be 15 to 20 reps and I'm burning out of, you know, burning and wanting to fail. All right, you guys, fast forward to, what is it? It's the next day? Yeah, it's the next day. Sorry about my hair is kind of a mess, but we're actually editing the video now. I always realize that I don't do the outros in my videos, or I've been forgetting them. So we're just wrapping up the video. Obviously, that was a crazy leg day, wrapped up with those sort of like glute biased sort of squat things. Now we went ahead and did a little bit of like dumbbell RDLs after this, just to kind of get a little extra pump, but that's basically the leg day. You know, outside of that, right, what you saw today, a traditional leg day, which like I said, you can go back and watch the last leg day. Traditionally, you know, we'll do sissy squat, either the before or after those leg extensions, or not sissy squat, I'm sorry, a heel elevated squat or front squat before or after those leg extensions. And that's kind of really it. You know, once I do a crazy squat along with those leg extensions, I'm pretty exhausted, especially with quads. And then throw in some sissy squats in between there, and it's just tremendous. So, and you'll notice too, I'm not hitting that crazy amount of hamstring stuff, posterior stuff like you saw today. I hit some booty stuff there at the end. Did a couple sets of leg curls, like 6 or 7 sets of leg curls. But outside of that, my hamstrings get activated and fatigued so much quicker than my quads. And I always compare it to biceps and triceps. My biceps, you do 2 or 3 sets and they're fatigued and they're basically done for. My triceps, I can train for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and kind of struggle to get that pump. So that's gonna wrap up today's video. I hope you were able to take something away. Maybe comment down below your name, or maybe comment down below something that you were able to take away from today's video, whether it was from scripture or maybe from the workout. But I love you guys. I can't thank you enough for all the support. Go ahead and check me out on Instagram and TikTok at Blaine Riley Lifts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment here. And with that being said, guys, I love you and I can't thank you enough. Remember to love God, lift weights, and live life. Peace.